Hey traders, David Frost, My Strategic Forecast. You're here for another episode of Common Sense Market Analysis. Today is Tuesday, July 23, 2024. We're looking at a daily chart of the SPY or Spider, which is the proxy for the S&P 500. What do we have on the docket today? All in all, the market really didn't do much all day long. A little bit of a sell-off in the afternoon, little bit of a rally attempt early on, spent a lot of the day just hovering around the pivot, which we'll see in a moment. She's above all the moving averages, and therefore the trend is in fact your friend. That doesn't mean the trend can't change if she has another leg down, gets below the other day Friday's low, but for now, in real time, she's above all the moving averages on the daily chart, the weekly chart, the monthly chart. Above all the moving averages, trend is your friend. One thing that does stand out to me today is that the S&P or the SPY left some unfinished business up north, which is generally, in fact, at the end of the day, by the time they close and they left some unfinished business up north early on, not going back to get it is a bearish sign. Doesn't mean they can't do it tomorrow, but leaving today, it was a bearish signal and also a rather bearish close minus the last 5-minute candle bounce. You see, this was a decline into the close. Is that a hint of something foretelling into Wednesday? By the end of the day, the S&P or SPY was down about 87 cents. Really not much at all, less than 0.2%. So we're not going to make a federal case out of that. It was on declining volume. We're not going to make a federal case out of that either. The concept we discussed last night, and we had this discussion with live room members today, is there's a couple of potential situations going on. This could be the makings of a leg down, that's leg A leg up, which would be leg B, and whether it's complete or not really doesn't matter for the concept of this. And then you have a C leg to make lower lows below the low of the A leg. That is still a viable opportunity, a viable thing on the table. Now, what kind of takes that off the table? What starts to eliminate that possibility? Well, if they get above this breakdown candle high, the high is in fact 559.52. This high over here is a little above 560. It's 560.51. So we'll just say above that high, 560.61. That takes that scenario off the table for the most part. They would get into a little area of no man's land, and then there's a gap with new highs or the old highs right up here from last week. So we're going to use 59.50, 559.50 as the front end of that. She's not looking like the ABC down if she's above that area. That's the first place. That's an area of overhead resistance. Getting through there would be part of the bull case. Looking over at the weekly chart again, this was a reversal candle last week, not on tremendous volume, but from a candle perspective, it was a bona fide reversal candle. Last week, they did come back to run a test of the most recent breakout area. I believe we talked about this last night. They finished the week slightly below it, immediately bounced up this week, and they find themselves above it. So for the bull case, they have to maintain price above the most recent breakout area, which they've already run a test of. So therefore, we know last week's low, Friday's low, is below that area. Getting below last Friday's low is certainly a bear case and will promote another leg down. Might want to put this on a sticky note, 545.65 right there. Might want to put that on a sticky note because if they do spike this low from last week, not that they have to stop there, reverse and make new highs, that's an area of support where they would spike the low and have a rip it back up in the other direction, at least from an intraday perspective. There's an opportunity at 545.65 if they get there sooner than later. Inside the number members and live room members will certainly have a beat on that number as needed. Put it on a sticky note, put it aside, file it away. And for now, that about covers the larger picture daily chart perspective of the SPY. What happened inside the numbers today? I'm going to highlight a few important things, a few important numbers, show you where the trades were, where traders made money today. And by the way, help a brother out. If you were in the live room today, if you were inside the numbers and you took advantage of these numbers, you made some money with it, help a brother out. I'm not the brother. Other traders that are looking for solutions are the brothers. Did you make money today? Were the numbers spot on? Was the learning and the education found in the live room today beneficial? Is there value? Let's hear about it. Post a comment under the video, please. You can pause the video, read the notes, and certainly go back to the charts, and I urge you to do so to double check the work. Let's highlight a few important areas. There's going to be another one as the morning grows on, but right here, early on, we're targeting a zone. This is for the bull case. There's a zone at 556.95 up to 558.50. Here's a 5-minute chart. Right of the vertical is today's activity. You could see up there 556.95. That's an important number. And they missed it today. They didn't hit it. They had every opportunity to do so. The high over here this morning was 556.74. They could have done it if they wanted to. They chose not to. I'll file that away as important information. It's unfinished business. Write that down for later. We had a flip side lower case. They never did the 552.45, or lower than that, so we don't have to worry about that. But let's see what we have as the morning grows on and things start to get fired up. 9 o'clock, what's the scoop? Well, we have yesterday's high, 557.27. That's a gateway to the next leg higher, where the door begins to open for a run up to the number we just looked at, 556.95 or higher. That didn't happen. They didn't get there, but wait, there is more. On the flip side, and in the spirit of a shakeout operation, if they're below 554.15 for more than a peekaboo, the door begins to open for the next leg down. Now remember this, 554.15. That's a line in the sand for a leg lower. Let's get that out of the way real quick. As you can see, the morning low over here right out of the gate was in fact 554.13. Funny how that works. You like them apples? Yeah. Below that, the first place of real importance for me today, below that was 553.20. And almost into the opening bell, they almost reach 553.20. That was the only place, or the next place I had below 554.15. Let's see what else we have. Right out of the gate, 9:27, still before the opening bell. Here it is, 554.15 is our pivot. That means price above, she's bullish. Below, she's not. She's going to run a test in the morning of the pivot. Way more often than not, there is a reaction from the pivot, whether they're coming up to it or down to it. The pivot causes a reaction. Traders in the live room took a trade at the pivot. 9:32, you see here's a test at a pivot. By 9:35, there's your base hit off the pivot for those traders who took the trade. We had a lot of participation in the live room today. We had a laundry list of profits off the pivot. We like the pivot. Pause the video. Read the notes. Go back to the chart to double check the work. Now, you're long from the pivot. 556.25 is resistance. It's a little bit before the other zone cited earlier. We're looking for resistance at 556.25. Also becomes a target for traders long. 556.25. And there's your resistance. There was exits on the long trade. And yes, we did have some traders take a short trade there. I was looking for the higher number this morning for the short opportunity. They never got there. Some traders did take a short at 556.25 and got paid handsomely. Any trader that took the long and the short, we classify that as a double barrel trading opportunity. Pause the video, read the notes, go back to the chart and double check the work. It's all in here. Each and every day, everything traders need to trade successfully in the S&P, whether you're trading SPY options, exchange traded funds, ES futures, micro contracts, SPX options. It doesn't matter. And then there's more, of course. We had a bonanza today because we had 4 stocks on the move hit their objectives. 2 did not. They're off the board. The bottom 2, AROC and GM. Well, GM, I checked that. That is back on the board from a live room perspective. We will take a look at that chart. It was rising in the pre-market, had a good short on the tip of my hand, and then they reversed and ended up falling later. So the live room in real time, we picked off the low, or close enough to it anyway. So let's take a look at some charts. We'll look at NXPI, CWH, Comcast, and HOG. NXPI, buy price 257.72. You see what happened here. Traded water down there for a lot of the day, but still, that was the number. It just took forever for the thing to bounce. The numbers work. That's the takeaway. Theoretically, and not theoretically, but in practice, we want it down here. We want them to come in earlier, sooner than later. We're not looking for this type of situation in the afternoon. We want all this to happen in the morning. It's a morning business. That's what we're after. They don't always give us what we want, but that's what we're after. CWH got a bounce off the first number. They gave you the trade, came down near the second, bounced back up later. The zone, the numbers worked. The zone was a 40-cent zone. Worked either way. The numbers work. Comcast, same routine. Gave you a bounce off the number early on, and then they came back down and did it again into the zone. This is a support zone. Again, the numbers work. HOG, you never know which ones give you the rocket ride. We had some rocket riders in the live room today in HOG, 33.61, picked off almost a low, immediately runs up to, what's this, 34.75, 34.80 in that area. From a day trading scalp with potential perspective, that's a double/triple. So that's what happened in GM. GM came into 46.25. We put it on the board for the live room members. Here was a secondary number if they came lower, but this one worked anyway. They gave you the trade pretty much as soon as they hit the number, 46.25. This was a short trade in the morning pre-market, but then when they turned around in real time, we were able to identify a price where they should and did bounce GM. The numbers work. What's going on over in Camp IWM today? Big healthy up day, up $2.34, a little over 1%. Spiders were down, S&P was down 8 points, IWM was up. It's my favorite market leading indicator. You'll see in a moment that the transports, my second favorite market leading indicator, were not up, they were down. So they kind of cancel each other out from where I come from. But nevertheless, just looking at this, my favorite market leading indicator was up on an increase or uptick in volume, if you will. So that is a bullish sign. Here's an hourly chart. Just want to reiterate something that happened last week. In the live room, in real time, and we talked about it in here, I think on Wednesday or Thursday. Well, what was this? This was Tuesday. So on Tuesday, well, this is Wednesday. So on Wednesday, when the IWM came right up to this price in here, we took a live room group trade on the short side of IWM. Puts, whatever traders wanted to trade, exchange traded products, didn't matter. Immediately came down, well, not immediately, but they came down. They gave us the trade into the weekend, the Friday low. And I was remiss yesterday in mentioning, but a lot of traders emailed me. They got paid very handsomely on that group trade. Nice job. Thanks for letting me know. I love it. What we're going to say here is they're approaching already around the vicinity of the highs from last week. So this is bullish. It's in an uptrend, still a little extended / far from home base / the 20-period moving average. So coming down again, having another leg down isn't out of the question. But let's just take this one at face value and say she's bullish. She already did one retracement of this tail. Now here comes a second. Now, pardon me, I take that back. This is a weekly chart. That retracement was from an intraday chart last week on the trade. This is a retracement of last week's tail candle, getting above, closing above the high. A week. Friday's close above the high negates that tail. Doesn't exist. There is no tail. The tail could be considered a sign and or signal of a trend change Above the tail, it's wiped off the table. Write that down, put it on a sticky note. Opposite effect of the IWM today were the folks down at the Transportation Department, Buttigieg's crew. And some of you put that you think he's running for president. I don't think so. I don't think he has the chops. I think he's just too weak. Right now, it's Kamala Harris. The media is fawning over. She's the best thing since sliced bread. That's predictable. They're going to ride that train and see if they can't manufacture a likingness out of her, meaning people don't like her. They have to change that tune. Doesn't really matter when the Democratic Party puts up a candidate. It doesn't matter who it is. They're going to rally behind the candidate. It could be Donald Duck. Makes no difference. Right now, it's Harris. The woman that never won a primary and was booted off the stage when she ran for president in 2020. Nobody liked her. Did something change? Did she do such a good job as VP in the last 3.5 years? Maybe. I'll leave that up to you to decide. The market will get volatile leading into the election. We talked about it last night. I bring it up again tonight. It's important. You don't know which days. You don't know exactly what's going to happen. It's a little too soon for that now, but it will get volatile leading into the election. Down day in the transports. Got taken out behind the woodshed, 244 points. FedEx, PS, taken behind the woodshed today. That was a big reason that the transportation average struggled today, was down. Woodshed day. Canary in the coal mine, or just coming back toward home base to work off some of the air-quoted overbought condition. All we know is she's inside this triangle situation, tried to spike it last week, couldn't stay above all the moving averages. Trend is your friend, regardless of whether that's on the weekly or the daily. Above all the moving averages, trend is your friend. The bull case here is you have a low, and then you have a higher low, and then you don't yet, but they could and normally will try and put in another higher low, and there is a bona fide trend line. We'll see what happens if she comes lower. Write that down, snapshot it, put it in your sticky notepad. Q people down $1.70 today, down about 1/3%. No big revelation there. It's not a huge move. It's just a down day. Below the moving average, meaning the 20, she's in teetering land. The low from last Friday is the line in the sand. Give up last Friday's low, and there's another leg down. First to fill this gap in here, which would be below the 50-period moving average, which would also put the Qs ahead on the downside of some of the other markets. That's interesting information. You're seeing a money shift / money rotation. Everybody's talking about it. I get it. It's just bringing it to the forefront. Above the 20-period moving average, the bull case, which puts them basically above this last breakdown candle high in the sequence up here, which is the entrance to no man's land. That turns this potential, the same thing as the spiders, where you have this leg down and then you may have a B leg and then a C leg down. Well, that's where it takes that at least temporarily off the table if they start rising above this breakdown candle high, 488.80, and start getting into no man's land to go fill the gap. That takes that scenario, at least for the time being, off the table. The financials in the XLF up 8 cents today. We're not going to make a federal case out of that. It's just up 8 cents. No change from yesterday. And then the semis got hit a little bit today. Down $2.86, a little over 1%. All this is right now is a little bit of a bounce from yesterday, a retracement of that bounce today, but a bounce from the low from Friday, and they're just playing around that 50-period moving average. Give up that 50, give up Friday's low, same routine in all the markets. 243.35 would be next target up on the board on the downside, SMH, Philadelphia Semiconductor Index. Have I told you how much I appreciate each and every one of you? Without you, these videos are not possible. That is true and accurate information. We're pulling the ripcord here today. I'm David Frost, My Strategic Forecast. Thanks again for tuning in to another episode of Common Sense Market Analysis.